Hello, everybody. Welcome to Classics and Company. This is our last book that we are discussing from 2023. We are discussing Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. Micah, can you tell me what the book is about, please?
Sure. So Anna Karenina is a novel about our title character, Anna Karenina, and her. She's a married woman who has an affair with a young bachelor. And the novel is sort of about the societal ramifications of that illicit love affair, and then sort of the interworkings of a married woman's life while being sort of pulled in this new romantic direction, and then the problems that arise from that.
Yeah,
Very basically, there's so much more than that
yeah.
happens.
Well, we
Lined up
also
now.
have with us Aaron, and Aaron is one of our most loyal readers in Classics and Company in the Discord channel. She's the only one who finished the Tale of Genji. I think she
Incredibly impressive.
yeah
I was
refused
like,
to
I
quit.
am finishing this
I
monster.
love it. I love it.
So, Erin, tell me, was this the first time you read Anna Karenina?
This was a reread for me, and you guys sucked me in. I had originally not planned on rereading it, but between Remember December and I was like, well, and I really do love this book, so I was getting FOMO, and so I listened to it this time. But I read it the first time, and this time I listened to it.
And
It's a
how was
different
it as an
translation.
audiobook?
What?
How was it as an audiobook?
I really enjoyed it as an audiobook. I'm not sure on print. I when I first went to read it, I looked at all the different translations and I found the translation I listened to a little clunkier, but listening to it, it was fine. Didn't notice it at all. And the narrator did a good job, like, impressing emotions on everything so that you really felt what was being said.
And for you, Micah, was it the first read?
It was, yes. And I listened to the audiobook and read an ebook version, kind of switched between the two. I switched between three different translations over the course of reading it, just because I wanted to get a little bit of a taste of each of the translators' work and how they were different. But I landed on the Constance Garnett translation being my favorite in the end, which I thought was sort of interesting because that's the first translation in English of the book. And it turned out to be my favorite.
And was it your first Tolstoy?
No, it was not. I have read War and Peace, and I've read some of his shorter works. But this is my first in a couple of years of his to read.
Yeah. So yeah,
It's been a
we
while.
were here I am again with Classics and
It was a reread for you too, Anne. Is that correct?
Excuse
Yeah.
me? What?
Oh, it was a reread for you as well.
Yes,
For you, Anne,
I
it was
read it
a
when I
reread.
was like 14 or something.
Oh,
And
I
I
think that's
really
too
loved it.
young.
Yeah, I really loved it. And for
That's
me, it was a
impressive.
reread, but I really enjoyed it. It was, I read it in Dutch, and
Mhm.
it was
Okay.
a retranslation made in 2017, and was excellent, absolutely excellent. I enjoyed every word of the book. I really did. It was marvelous. It was absolutely marvelous, and it was also very interesting to learn how nobility lived in Russia before the revolution, and how everything was, and how, yeah, like
Right.
most nobility French, they were often, the French language was very important in the book.
Right. It was the official language
Yeah.
of the nobility was French. So French culture
Yeah,
was synonymous with Russian nobility.
yeah.
Yeah.
And who is your favorite character in the novel, Aaron?
I love Levin and Kitty.
Yeah.
Me
Who
too.
are,
Why?
again, it's like there's almost like two different plot stories. There's the adultery story, and then there's the story a counterbalance that there's the happy marriage story about Levin and Kitty, and kind of I feel like that's I'm not sure exactly what Tolstoy was going to do because I'm not, a scholar, but it seems to counterbalance that other story.
Yeah, but maybe also because their stakes weren't as high, it was easier to be happy, I think. No?
What do you mean the stakes weren't as high?
Well, for instance, yeah, Anna and Vronsky, they really loved each other, but they could never openly show their love because it was a scandal.
Yeah, well, if
So,
she
yeah,
go on to my point, she could have just gotten the divorce in the first place.
well, no, really,
Yeah.
if Karenin didn't allow it,
He did allow it. He absolutely said, "I give up everything and I absolutely allow it." After she had the child, he said she can have the divorce, she can even have the son, and she ran off to Italy for some unknown reason
Right.
that I have never
Because he
understood.
just wanted his name
oh, you don't
protected.
know the reason.
No, no, I don't. It's never explained, and it says right in the book that she ran off to Italy without getting that divorce, and then after she's been in
Do you
Italy.
have information we don't have?
Well,
Ann?
she started using something.
Well, she did. She started using
Right.
the drugs, but that was in Italy. That wasn't before she left Russia.
I think she started getting drugs because of the pain she had
It could be.
after
Oh, that's an interesting point.
birth, and she got addicted to that. And I think
She definitely got addicted. Yes.
she fled to Italy to be more free using it, I think.
I in the book, I do not remember any references to the drugs until she was in Italy.
Oh,
And that yeah, so I did not read it that way at all.
yeah.
So Anne, you're saying that in your interpretation, she began using the drugs before Tolstoy even
No,
brings that to the
she
reader's
first
attention.
used it to be to get better, like
Right.
everybody
After
does
her birth.
after her birth. But it took her a while to get over the birth and everything.
Hmm.
And I think without her realizing, she got used to it. And then when she went to Italy, she also, I think, there was a sentence that really stood out for me when she said to Vronsky that she was pregnant, that there was a look in his face that made her realize that he had thought about the relationship a lot more than she ever did, and about the consequences and about things. And from that moment on, she became way more uncertain about her relationship with him. And she got scared also. And I think that was also one of the reasons why she ran off, that she wasn't really convinced that Vronsky was really in love with her, but more
Right.
as a sort of that she was more a sort of a trophy, a beautiful woman. That's what I got from it.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I think that's an interpretation, but it's certainly what's not in the text. And I mean, Stefan Arkadyevich says, where is it? Wait, I've got to. He basically says that you guys can talk. I'm going to find it.
Well,
But
I'm wondering
it's
with
my
this particularly.
it's my really ancient ugly
Oh, there we go.
internet with I got it at a like a
Free market.
used book sale. Yeah.
There we go. I'm wondering in this case too if this is what arises from difference in translations and then differences between translations in two different languages as well.
Okay, yeah.
And that's something that I really do enjoy about interpretations of Russian literature when you're not reading it in the original writing, because you're either crossing a language barrier, like and you're reading it in a Dutch translation. We're reading it in an English translation by different translators, And so it's really interesting to see sort of how different people almost do receive a different novel because you
Yeah.
read with your own interpretation, and then also the text itself is quite different.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
And
the
sometimes,
part I was finding, that this is the part that always sticks in my craw about this. People are always saying, I hear everybody else saying this is a love story and it's tragic because Anna can't get a divorce. And I'm like, they're right here. It says when Stepan Arkadyevich is talking to Alexei, and Alexei says, he says, the only question is on what terms you agree to give her a divorce. She does not want anything, does not dare ask you for anything. She leaves it all to your generosity. And she says, my God, what for? Remembering the details of divorce proceedings in which the husband took the blame on himself, and with just the same gesture which this Vronsky had done the same, he hid his face for shame in his hands. And then he says, yes, yes, I will take the disgrace on myself. I will give up even my son.
yes, but afterwards, didn't he um, turn back to his words? I mean,
After she had been in Italy for a year or two and abandoned her son with no warning for over a year. Yes,
Interesting.
yes. And
Interesting.
I
after
thought
that,
it
that
was
really
earlier.
religious
Yeah,
woman
yeah,
got her
yeah. You're
claws
right.
in him. Yes, but if she had just gotten it struck while the iron was hot,
So
it all could have been resolved.
so she almost made it more difficult for herself by leaving. She could have
Yes,
stayed, had divorce proceedings, and then been free to marry Vronsky.
We
absolutely.
always
And
make
Vronsky even
stupid.
says as much to her. He says we could live as husband and wife and it would all be fine. And she's like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want a divorce anymore. And then it says a month later, Alexei Alexandrovich was left alone with his son at his house in Petersburg while Anna and Vronsky had gone abroad, not having obtained a divorce, but having absolutely declined all idea of one. On
Do
her.
you think do you think that her hesitation in wanting to proceed with divorce was because she wasn't sure if Vronsky truly loved her and she didn't want to leave her husband and then possibly
I
move
don't think so.
away?
All of her doubts seem to come when she's opium induced. She becomes entirely paranoid.
Okay.
Yeah,
Definitely becomes.
yeah,
But
that's true.
earlier he basically
But
says,
yeah,
I
but
will marry you.
there was something that really struck me when she said that she was pregnant and she looked at Vronsky and his look changed. And there was a little seed that was planted where she wasn't convinced that Vronsky was totally in love with her and was willing to marry as a count. You have to, he was a count, to
Mhm.
Right.
marry a divorced woman, which was a huge, huge disgrace in
Could
in
have
those
sullied
days.
his name.
Yeah. I mean, I think he may have hesitated for a second. I mean, I don't know though, because it never says that, because he definitely says after that many times that he
Yeah,
is all
yeah,
in
yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
her. And I mean, she definitely has her own um, you know, like I think some people just do that. They doubt themselves, they doubt the other person, at the end, once she's
Right.
on in Italy, she start or is it when she's back in Russia again? I think it's almost back when she's in Russia again that she starts imagining that he's, doing things.
Hmm.
He's not. I mean, he came off to me much better than I remembered him from the first time. I'm like, he's actually pretty loyal. I had forgotten that he stood by her the way he did.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, he was actually,
Right.
he was very loyal indeed. Yeah, this is
There she
my
is.
Siberian cat. Stop biting me. Yeah, but yeah, it was like Dolly, her niece. Um, was she like the most forgiving? Do you think, and most
Her
how you
sister-in-law, you mean?
hmm?
Dolly is her sister-in-law.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
was she not like the most how you call it, the most forgiving and the most understanding of the whole
yeah,
bunch?
yeah. She definitely was. I mean, I think she felt she owed a debt because when she was in a somewhat similar circumstance, uh, Anna had been there for her.
Mm.
Um,
Right.
but yes, but a whole bunch of people said to her, if you would just get the divorce, we could hang out with you again. I mean,
Yeah.
it was when, yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah,
It's
but
interesting.
sometimes easy solutions are handed to you, and
She
for
yes, she let it slip through her fingers.
yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
often the case with people.
Yeah, it is. No,
Right.
I
People look back on their lives and they're,
oh,
I
Like,
should
oh,
yeah.
have.
it was right there.
Now it's obvious what I should have done. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I think she's like many people that hard things are hard to think about, and if you just don't think about the problem, she says this a number of times, if I just don't think about it, it'll all turn out. She'll be like, it'll all be fine.
Right.
Some
yeah,
Even
magical
when the solution is something so simple
yeah,
as get the divorce and it's
yes.
over, even that
yeah.
that hurdle of even thinking about that
It's easy
clouds
to
it.
get the divorce, but it's painful process. I think that may have
Right.
been what held her back is
Right.
that yes, that would solve all her problems, but getting from A to B is still going to be a painful process. You have to go to
Right.
court, you got to write the
And it's
letter.
the realization that it would actually be happening.
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
while you're
and
thinking
and
about it, you can think
also
about the outcome, but then once you're actually in the proceedings, you realize
yeah,
there's no alternative. This is now your reality.
yeah, and also the I think she was somewhere scared that once she got divorced, that Vronsky wouldn't marry her for some reason, somewhere in the back of her mind.
Right.
That must
Which
have been
is that was a justifiable worry, as you were
yeah,
saying, and with him being a count, being
yeah,
a member of the aristocracy, he would have to take quite a risk in marrying a divorced woman.
mm,
And so there is a chance that could have happened, and then he could have flaked out.
yeah,
Sort of when he realized what that could have meant for his position in society.
yeah.
Although what interested me in this novel, especially the first time I read it, the second time I kind of already knew that was coming, was how actually accepted divorce was in these upper circles. It's kind of more
That
like
surprised me as well.
in the France of like when we read Dangerous Liaisons, it's kind of like everything's just kind of an open secret, and people were divorced and they did remarry, even in these upper echelons. When I think that just read some other book set in Ireland, and I'm like, oh yeah, divorce wasn't legal in Ireland till like 1980 something, and we're thinking about this period in
Wow,
Russia where, and I'm like, wow.
that's
So
really interesting.
it's it's not cool and it's not great, but kind of people get over it and forget it if you just get on with it. But yeah, I think there's so many of those people out there, and we all do it to ourselves, where something is obviously the right decision, but it's hard to get from point A to point B. So
Mm.
we put it off and we put it off and we put it off.
Right.
And what do you think of her towards Sergei, her son?
Yeah, that bugged me. That was the other thing that bugged me about her going off to Italy, is her entire stated reason originally for not wanting the divorce was that she'd lose her son, and when
And then she just leaves him
then she just leaves him, and I was like, what
for
happened?
a year.
Yeah, I feel like, what was
Like,
that?
I don't want to lose my son, and then she's out of here. Again, that the contradiction that was obviously very present in her.
Yes,
She's almost two different characters.
Yeah, she
Dude, she
was a
has
very
these two different
complex.
personalities.
she's
That's
very complex.
and
Yes.
that
More,
makes
yeah,
it a
more than
very
two.
difficult book because she's so multi-layered that
Mhm.
often the female characters in especially in those days were very cardboard like almost with
Right.
very little inner how you call
Not
it
well rounded at all.
Yeah. Not a lot of inner life, inner thoughts.
yeah
And yes, he definitely can write complex characters, including women, which
yeah that but which is rare
yeah,
quite
yeah.
It's rare, especially for the time period as well. Like you were saying, and of sort of being this extra quality of having the internal monologue present
Mm.
for any character, but particularly for a female character.
Do you think it would have helped him that he is himself was from nobility?
I think so.
Yeah.
Of sort of being from nobility and then sort of uh, removing himself from high society. He has the advantage of being of noble birth and sort of having all that stuff handed to him from a very young age, and then choosing a life of poverty, being able to see from the other side, sort of see the nobility from the outside, helps to write a really well-rounded character.
Mm. What do you think of Vronsky?
I agree sort of with what Aaron said. It was my first time reading it, but he came across as a very loyal character towards Anna, and I mean, I was a fan. I was a fan of him. He's one of my favorite characters. I'll be interested when I read it again sometime in the future to see sort of if my perspective of that changes. But he comes across as a person who genuinely loves her, and is wanting the best for her, and is maybe a little bit irritated that she doesn't seem to want the best for herself, sort of
Yes.
purposely putting herself in positions that is detrimental to her well-being, while he's sort of standing behind her saying it's really fairly easy for you to get better. These are the things you need to do. These are the steps to follow.
It must be hard for him to not grasp the fact that she doesn't love herself as much as he loves her,
He loves her,
in a way.
right?
That's
Right.
exactly the contradiction. I think that's what, when I've said that I get frustrated with Anna, and people think that means I don't think she's well written, or that I don't think that. No, that's the opposite. I get frustrated with her. It's
Because
like
she's so well written.
Because
she's so well written, and she's like you say, she's self-destructive. That is really the heart of. I think that she has so much guilt about all of this that she doesn't feel like she's worthy of love, and she's not worthy, and that's why she does these self-destructive things, because she feels like she deserves it. And
do you think it's also because many times in the book people say to her, "You're so beautiful"?
she is. It describes her beauty in such an interesting way too, that it's not just her face or her features, but her movements. He talks a lot about how she moves, and the light in her eyes that comes on when she sees Vronsky versus her
Right.
husband.
That's a very interesting point, and I hadn't thought about it in that way.
Yeah, because when people see her, she always hears, "Oh, you're so beautiful," and family and people she doesn't know, but everybody talks about her beauty. And then I think there's something, yeah, that she is not aware of, but sometimes that can cause some self-sabotage, where you think, well, yeah, I'm already beautiful, so I don't deserve to be happy as well, because that would be too much.
Right. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And what do you think of Dolly, Kitty?
Kitty has a very nice trajectory in this. I mean, I think one of the reasons that I disliked Vronsky more the first time, it's like what stuck in my head, like what I remembered from the book versus what I like when I reread it. What I remember was a lot of his interactions back with Kitty. Like, I like Kitty, and it's like, you dumped Kitty, you led her on, you jerk, and then and then you went after the married woman. And then at the beginning, when you're in his head, at the beginning of his affair with Anna, he's thinking a lot about, or when he's still with Kitty, he's like, oh, I don't really want to settle down with anyone. This was all just a lark. This is all just was fun. But somehow you realize in the end, he is so bowled over by Anna that he does end up being very loyal, and he doesn't run around having affairs like Dolly's husband. And
Right.
Yeah, and how do you think is the reaction of Karenin, her husband?
I think understandable in a way. He doesn't seem like that likable a person in a lot of ways, but I don't think he's a bad person. They're just
his approach seems to be, do whatever you want, just make sure it doesn't affect my standing or my public image.
My position. Yeah.
Yes.
He really doesn't seem to be distraught or concerned at all, but merely very just complacent in it.
Yeah.
Of, do what you want to do, just make sure it doesn't hurt me.
Well, I think that sorry.
Do you think he loved her at any point?
I think probably at some points he doesn't seem to love her. Yeah. He doesn't seem to sort of the way he treats it in such a blasé manner. So I'm wondering if it was sort of when they were very young, sort of a fleeting love
They
at some point. I'm not
I
sure.
it was
I think
no,
it was.
there's another quote I got for you here.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. You can't argue with the text.
I know, I love it, and they're all the ones, the same ones. I think I had a bookmark in here because they were from when I was in the Discord group. I was writing stuff. So discuss amongst yourselves for a sec while I find
What are your opinions, Anne?
What? I don't think he ever
What do
loved
you
her.
think?
No.
You
I
don't.
think she was more of probably a sort of arranged kind of marriage where
Just a trophy.
people marry for standing and status and
Do you think Anna married him with the hopes of sort of just securing a financial future for herself?
yeah, not only
securing
that, and maybe hoping for love, but
Right.
she quickly realized that
Did you
she and her
find
brother both chose love over marriage. They both ruined their marriages to choose for love. Yeah.
Did you find the passage, Aaron?
almost. It has to do. Stepan Arkadyevich talks to Anna about her marriage and tells her that he's going to ask Alexei for a divorce for her on her behalf. And basically, to paraphrase what he says, I'd love to quote the text, but I know it's somewhere on these 2 pages. He basically says to her, Anna, there's no shame in this. You married a man 20 years your senior or something like that. He's much older than she is. And it's obviously, if you think back to like some of the other storylines in here, you have Kitty's mother trying to arrange like, what's best for things, So I think a lot of the marriages, especially in the nobility, were arranged. There's a lot of young women being married off to older men. And it's obviously some kind of an arranged marriage that he was obviously very well respected. I don't think he's a bad person. I'm sure he was seen as a good match. I think he loved her, I think abstractly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
because
think
she was
he loved, she was a good woman, she was a good mother to his child, and of course that's all wonderful and comfortable and loving. And I think when she was unfaithful, I think there was a lot of unfaithfulness, just like we saw in Dangerous Liaisons, maybe not as much in Russia as in France, but I think a lot of those open secrets of people having divorces, but you just couldn't advertise, you couldn't make it obvious, but everybody knew it was happening. It was okay as long as so that's why I think he reacted that way. But then he kind of went through 3 phases. He had that reaction, and then when she had the baby, she had the I'll give you the divorce, I'll even take the blame upon myself. He had this huge, some sort of like almost a religious, turn the other cheek kind of come to Jesus moment about it. And he completely, but then that same kind of religious awakening, when she abandoned him for a year, turned in the other direction when that widow or whatever it was got her fingers in him. She was like, oh, she's a bad woman, we can't let her around your son. And it kind of, that same religious feeling he got went from turn the other cheek to punish the wicked.
It's really interesting.
I just started a video on Prime, and it's a Russian movie, Anna Karenina, Vronsky story.
Wow.
And it's
interesting.
After Anna Karenina dies, he goes to somewhere to be at war.
Yes.
And it starts off many years later when Sergei is a very well-respected doctor, a surgeon, and he has to save Vronsky. And while Vronsky is on his sickbed, Sergei starts to ask him questions about his mom, and he says, well, I didn't think that I would ever ask you these questions because I really hated my mom. I hated what she did, but he wants to hear his side of the whole story, Vronsky's side of the story. So I will continue watching. It's a Russian movie, but I'm really interesting to see.
That sounds really cool.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. It's on Prime, apparently.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Prime. Yeah, well, I wonder if we can get it because it's so different. I hate these country things they do where they're like,
Well,
you know,
it's
Right.
only subtitled in English, so maybe.
Okay.
what's the name? You'll have to tell us the
I'll
name of
check
Put
it.
it in the
See if I
Discord.
have access.
But it's Anna Karenina, and
Mhm.
then the subtitle is Vronsky
Vronsky
Story. So that's it.
That's
That sounds
really
super
interesting.
Yeah, it is, especially that they chose Sergei and Vronsky to interact and to talk. Sergei then being an adult man in his early 30s, and Vronsky being an older man. Was Vronsky younger than Anna?
I believe he was, yes.
I think he was. I'm not sure how much younger.
No, it's never, I
But-
don't think it's ever said, but it's clear that she has an 8-year-old child already. And
Yeah.
he seems to be a young up and coming. My guess is he's somewhere in his 20s, mid-late 20s, and she's somewhere in
That's
her
why I pinned him.
30s, or maybe also her later 20s, but it's unclear to me, but it seems to me that she is at least a little bit older than he is.
Yeah, I
Right.
think so too.
Yeah, but I
And
don't think it's explicitly stated in
that's
it.
also something that could
Mhm.
play in Anna's mind, of course,
Mhm.
that when she gets older, that maybe he will dump her for
Right.
Yeah.
for a
For
younger
a younger woman.
yeah.
Well, she already starts thinking that just generally when she's back in Russia. But I think that's a lot, as you're saying, that the drugs talking at that point. Yeah, she definitely becomes completely out of touch, and it's sad to see because Vronsky is definitely at that point trying to reassure her, but also getting frustrated with her because how
Yeah.
can you not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How often can you tell, and in how many ways can you tell somebody that you love them if they don't believe you?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
You know, and
Right.
that's a bit.
And if someone is sort of predisposed to disbelieve you, and her personality seems to be that she sort of has all of these guards up prematurely with everyone. So then when you hear someone just repeatedly tell you how much they love you, it probably starts to feel sort of almost like manipulative or sort of disingenuous after a while. And then you start thinking, well, what do they actually think? Because he keeps telling me he loves me, but clearly he can't love me.
but I think
Because
that's all her own self-talk again, because
Yeah.
Right,
he
right.
can't do anything right. Because
And
if
he
he
can't
says
do
it
anything
too
about
much, she
that.
feels like that, and if he doesn't say it, then she begs him for it. That's the thing. She's goading him for it.
Right.
Like, don't you love
Right.
me? And he has to say it because
Right.
she's like,
And
but
so it pins him in a corner.
yeah.
Was
He can't
she
win because either
ever
he's
really
too
happy?
effusive.
Was she ever really happy?
I don't really think so.
I don't think so. Maybe at the very start of the affair when she wasn't thinking about it yet, but then I think that wore off pretty quickly. And again, I think that has a lot to do with her own self, what's going on in her head more than, yeah.
I think she was. Yeah, in the beginning, yeah, it's exciting. It is forbidden, and something that is forbidden is always fun to do.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the only time in her life where she was sort of happy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that she is obviously her husband is obviously just a cold man, and I don't necessarily think, like, I think with the right wife, like whoever that widow was, they seem to be well suited to each other.
Yeah, but
Right.
You know,
maybe
I don't think he was a bad person, but they were very ill
No.
suited. She obviously was a person who needed passion, and she needed to feel loved in
Right.
a proactive way, not in a
admired and
not an intellectual, you're
put
the
on a
mother of my
pedestal.
children way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he was
Right,
just
right.
more cerebral and interior and cold, and he was always saying,
Do you think any of that had to do with the age difference?
I think it partly had to do with the age difference. I
With
think
him
he
being so
thought
much
of her
older
like
than
a
her?
child, and I don't think he really thought about any of her
Mhm.
intellectual. I mean, I don't know. She was never mentioned as being like super intelligent anyway, but I mean, I don't think he really cared about.
No.
He talked to her always in this sarcastic way. It was said multiple times. So I think he was kind of, she felt talked down
Right.
to.
Sort of talking down to her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't feel respected. Yeah.
No,
Interesting.
she didn't. But yeah,
And I
that's
think she was
also a
fine
bit
to put
the
up with it.
problem when you. I don't personally don't have that problem, but when you really good looking, then people don't rarely think you're intelligent on top of that.
They sort of assume it means you're lacking in
Mhm.
some other quality.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There was a girl on my floor in college who had this problem. She was drop dead gorgeous.
Erin,
Hmm?
hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
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 Now
Okay.
you're back.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I must have glitched. So yeah, there's a girl on my floor in college, she's drop dead gorgeous, huge blue eyes, like a walking Barbie doll. And all the boys would line up to see her, and like they'd knock on the doors of every door in the hall to try and find her, and we'd be like, "Yes, hi, I'm chopped liver." She lives down there. And it turns out she was a pre-med student, and everybody thought she was as vacuous as anything because she had these just eyes that just looked at you. And yeah, she smoked.
Hmm,
She ruined the curve
interesting.
of an entire class of pre-med students, and by junior year no one liked her anymore because she made all the A's.
Wow.
And they were all like,
Man.
"Oh, I only got a 50, but I'm sure it'll be on scale." And it's like, "Nope, nope.
Nope.
She made a 90. I'm screwed."
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
So yeah,
that's
but
really
people
interesting.
just assume when you're pretty
That
things about you when you're really
right. And Tolstoy never
that
makes
never happened to
any
me either.
allusions. He never makes any allusions to Anna's intellect. That's
No,
really never even mentioned,
no, it's
No.
not. It's more her
which is
personality.
interesting.
He does, like I said, he does mention a lot, like her movements and her personality. She has some sort of vivaciousness to her. So I
Mm.
don't think it's
Right.
just her looks. And also when they're doing the portrait, he talks about how the one artist, Vronsky, does a likeness, but the other guy is able to bring something about her vivacious inner life. She
Mm.
definitely
Right.
has something inside. It may not be, calculus, but it's
Right.
something. There.
Because then also on the opposite side of that, he never describes her as being dumb or ditzy.
No, no, he never
She's
does.
so it's sort of he
Never.
just leaves her intellect completely out of the picture, and
Mm,
it's
yeah,
literally it's purely a physical. It's a physicality about her
Yeah.
that
yes,
makes her
Yeah.
different.
yep.
Mhm. That's true. That's true. That's true.
It's interesting.
Is this a good novel if you want to discover the Russian authors, the Russian classics? Is this a good entry book?
I think so. It was my entry book. I mean, I think
Mine
this was
too.
the first Russian classic that I read. I read it for the first time. I was already an adult. I was probably already in my 40s, not 14. But yeah, it was the first one, and I definitely
I
left me
think
wanting more.
I think it is a really good introduction into Russian novels. I think anything by Tolstoy would be an
Yeah.
introduction, but particularly Anna Karenina, because I think having a small cast that's easy to track is important. Because, for instance, War and Peace is equally magnificent, but it's so many people in and out that it's really can be quite confusing to follow. Whereas in Anna Karenina, we have a very tight
Group of
knit
people.
group of people that we have for the entire novel, and so it's a lot easier. You can just focus on the story itself, and you don't have to be making notes and trying to remember names
Who's
and
who
all of
and
that.
whose cousin
For
is
what
that?
Napoleon was doing, gosh darn it! Like,
Yeah.
Right. Well, right, exactly, Aaron. Because in War and Peace, you have 200-page rabbit trails of just nonfiction history about the Napoleonic Wars and the politics of the time, and then
Oh,
you're
yeah.
back to the story of Natasha and Pierre, and you're trying to keep in your mind what's going on. And I think in Anna Karenina, Tolstoy holds back completely. He never launches into any tangents in Anna
I have
Karenina.
to
He
disagree.
seems to
We
stay
have
very focused
Levin
on the
pondering.
story.
We have Levin pondering
Oh,
how to properly mow the field.
that is true.
Yeah, there's a lot of
That is
Levin
true.
digressions, but I
However,
love
though,
Levin so much I don't
that,
mind.
that comes through a character, though. Like
Yes.
I agree with that, but because it's Levin sort of thinking about it. I read it differently than in War and Peace when it's purely just a historian's lecture,
Oh, I totally agree with you.
not
I
related
totally
to a
agree with you.
character at
I'm just saying
all.
he definitely did digressions, but he sneaks
But I
he
do agree.
sneaks in the
I found that
political
humorous.
situation through Levin,
He,
yeah,
he
I couldn't.
found a loophole. He found a loophole. Because I can wonder if I just attribute it to a character's thought. And then, yeah, we get Levin mowing the grass.
Yes.
And I did want to ask you, and you said you originally when you were 14 years old, which is very young for a novel of this depth. Going back and reading it now, did you have a different perspective or a different appreciation for the novel than when you first read it?
You understand more. That Anna is a difficult woman, and she you understand Vronsky more, and you understand everybody a whole lot better, and also the society, how they are treating Anna and Vronsky, and that was also big frustration for her, also due to her own fault. But Vronsky could still live his life the way he loved it. But Anna less, because of the choices she made, but she refused to accept that in a way, because she made life difficult for herself, and those things you don't see as a young girl. That's
right.
too complicated.
That's something that I really like about Tolstoy's writing is you can almost it depends, whatever it mirrors where you are at the time of reading it. It can be as deep or as shallow as you want it to be as a reader, because he doesn't overload on his details of motivations for his characters, but he gives just enough that you can then extrapolate further based off of where you are reading from, which is interesting.
It was. I think I had a blast. I really, really enjoyed it. For me, it was the best book of Classics and Company 2023. So yeah, for me,
I agree.
It was, Genji out of the water.
Yes, we finally found a book that's more long-winded than something Tolstoy would write.
Oh my god! I was like, I'm gonna finish this book.
I'm impressed. I think you may be the only one, Aaron, who finished it.
I was like, I'm 1,000 pages in. I'm
not quitting.
And I'm finishing this.
I love it. I love it. The determination.
And I also read the other two books. You know, the
yeah.
That was helpful actually to me.
Yeah.
But I think I watched your video earlier today about making yourself projects and themes. That was totally what I was doing. I'm like, I am studying Heian Japan. Forget like, you know, the novel as a novel. I'm studying Heian Japan, and this is a classic. I'm gonna get through it.
Right. This is the perfect source material.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's perfect.
So yeah, we're that's it, I think. Do you have something more to add that you want to say about Tolstoy or Anna Karenina? Or
if you haven't read it, read it. That's all I would say. If you have not read it yet, go ahead.
Take your time or listen to it.
Absolutely.
It is a magnificent book. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
Thank you, Aaron, for
thanks for inviting me.
Yes. For coming on.
Yeah, it's fun to have also people that don't have a channel on Classics and Company, and that's a bit the idea that we had at the beginning. And I'm really glad that this is finally happening. So
me too. This is what we wanted from the beginning, was to have members who are reading with us to join us.
Yeah.
Well, I always have a lot to say, but I'm never gonna get my act together to get a channel. This is just
well, we'll have you on. We'll have you on next month for Moby Dick then.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Moby
keep
Dick.
You coming back.
I think I may love Moby Dick even more than Anna Karenina.
I know I do.
I love Moby Dick too. Yeah.
So I'm excited
for
that
the Russians. This is my favorite book so far.
I think so for me too. I've also read War and Peace. I read The Idiot, but by Dostoevsky, but I did not like it much. So.
It's dense. It's very dense.
Yeah. Very long-minded. Okay. Thank you for for coming and reading with us, and to everybody who is watching us, thank you for your time, and join us for the next Classics and Company. We will shortly put up some videos on our new channel. We are setting it up as we speak. So don't forget to follow us there too. And keep on reading. Thank you.
Indeed.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Ta-da.